Welcome back to Afternoon Live. Summer is known as the happy, fun season full of get-togethers and vacations, but this can be an isolating time for those who are grieving. Here with ways to gently move through the season while you heal, we welcome back the host of the Soul Talks podcast and author of He's Not Coming Back, Theresa Bruno. It's so nice to see you.
Oh, Hannah, how are you? How is summer treating you?
So far, so good. I've got my son on his first day of summer break, and we're getting it through.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Well,
summer's hard for parents.
I
You got to
know.
navigate all that. Where are we going to put everybody and how can I entertain?
All the things. So let's talk about walking through grief in the summertime and that it's okay to not feel okay, even though all of these wonderful things seem to be happening around us.
Yeah, Hannah, you and I have talked about this before. Grief is not a straight journey out. It's not a straight line to healing or feeling better. Grief's a jagged line. And so, you think you're feeling better and you accept an invitation to a barbecue or even a wedding, and then the day comes and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't feel good about this. I don't feel like I can do this." And what I like to say to people, because the question I get asked the most is, when will this go away?
Mm.
How long am I going to feel like this? And it's a roller coaster. It comes and goes. But I think it's so important to remember, if you decide, okay, I think I can make that barbecue or I think I can make that wedding, every little step toward doing that is truly an act of courage. Once you make the decision to go, you've made a courageous decision. Once you get dressed, that is very courageous. That's a hard thing to do when you're in grief. Once you get in the car or take transportation to get somewhere. And you know what that means is those are acts of courage. Each of those are one individual act. But the more courageous acts we have, we become resilient. It becomes just a little bit easier. And I like to tell everybody, first of all, you're not alone. I feel like everybody in this world is suffering something and has pain of some sort. We all hide it in this sort of perfectionist culture we live in, this Instagram world we live in, but we are all suffering something. But I want to say, to your viewers, celebrate those little acts of courage because it really is, it's victory. It is healing. It's what will help you, get to that side where one day you can go, it's just not as hard as it was. I really am feeling better.
It's true. Maybe you do make it all the way to a big social function, like a big family wedding or something, and you don't have a great time. You're still kind of struggling through it, but you go home and you say, I did that, and it's not
Mhm.
always going to be this hard forever.
Absolutely. I can remember one year after my husband's suicide, I was asked to the wedding of a dear friend, and I really wanted to go for her, but I wasn't ready to go and do that. I got dressed, I cried all the way there. I got out of the car. I stood at the very, very, very back of the garden where they were getting married, and I made it until she said her vows, and then I had to politely say, "This is all I can take. I can't stay for the reception. I was there for my friend, and I had to leave." And I did cry all the way home, but you know what? It made the next thing I did a little bit easier.
For sure, and you still got to show up for her, and I'm sure that she really appreciated that you made it that far given what you were going through in that time as well.
Yeah, and I just, I like to say to everybody, you are not alone. I mean, I can resolutely say you're not alone. If I can go through some of the things that I've been through that were just horrific tragedies and stand here before you today, I want you to know there's somebody who understands. You are absolutely not alone in your pain. You're not alone in your grief. And something I'd like to say too, Hannah, I talk a lot about this right now. Um, One of my kind of tricks very early on, and I use them absolutely today, every single day, was just to write on little sticky notes. And I would say to your viewers today, please do this tonight. Just take sticky notes and write down, I am stronger than I think, and put it on the mirror where you get dressed. Write down, I am a survivor, and put it in your makeup bag. Put it somewhere you're going to see it, where you're going to pull your water bottle. Those little tiny words that you see over and over and over, they are words of affirmation, and they sort of begin to drown out the noise of grief. And you begin to pull them in, and then ultimately they become you. You are a survivor. You are stronger than you think. But just start with those two.
Yeah, that's a great, I mean, baby steps, right? You can't do it all at one time. And what about other small little rituals or things that you can do to honor that loved one that you are grieving as you carry on this process?
And I think that's such a great question. Thank you. And that is sort of the point of grief, is learning how to keep carrying the one you loved, the one you miss, the job that you longed for, the pet you lost, whatever, your particular sorrow is, to still honor it, to still kind of hold it in one hand. And that's part of grief. And then to rebuild, to begin rewriting your story on the other side of that. And I love to look at our stories. As you know, Hannah, we've talked about this before. I love to look at our lives as a garden. And you can see when you're in grief and sorrow and hurt and pain that your garden maybe not is not growing a lot of flowers. But if you just kind of take it a quadrant at a time and go, okay, in this place over here, maybe I feel sort of good and some weeds are, being pulled up, and I can grow over here. And that's a way you honor those we've lost, I think, is to begin rewriting our stories. One of the ways that I did, James and I were avid hikers. And the hardest thing I had to do was the first time I took a hike, much less took a trip to take a hike. I was like, I love the outdoors. It fills me up. I feel like I'm closer to the God of my understanding, in nature. But I was so used to him being by my side. And so I say to people, get outside. The trees and the streams and the flowers truly do heal you. And then I would walk, and I might cry a lot, but I would know that James would want that for me. He would want me to be back out in nature and hiking and being healthy and making healthy choices. And so some of the ways out of grief are to remember that our loved ones want us to be well.
Yeah, one step at a time, and he's there with you every step of the way, too, as you honor him in that way. I love talking to you about this stuff. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Oh, thank you always for having me, Hannah. You're delightful.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Theresa's book again is He's Not Coming Back, and we'll have more about Theresa and the Soul Talks podcast on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.